Evening everyone, tonight I'd like to talk about the reasons why you might want to come and see an optometrist if you're having regular headaches. And stick around to the end if you'd like to hear some more interesting facts about migraine. So I'm Tom from Eyecare Eyewear, and I'm trying to bring you an evidence-based perspective to behavioural vision care. And by way of background, I've been practising optometry since 2001, and my practice holds over 25,000 individual patient records. In 2015, I was fortunate enough to be accepted as a fellow in the Australasian College of Behavioural Optometry. So today's video is for anybody who suffers from headaches. Now during this live, if you need me to clarify any of the terms I'm saying, just please leave a comment below and I can answer that a little bit later. So why would you see an optometrist if you're having headaches? The first thing that's worth a mention is that not every headache is going to be due to a vision problem. However, there is a relationship between problems with visual efficiency and with headaches. So what I mean by visual efficiency is problems where your eyes aren't working together properly as a team, as opposed to problems with not being able to see things as clearly. I often tell some of my patients that 70% of every single sensory input that comes into our brain is visual. And of the cerebral cortex, or the part of the brain that's responsible for processing information, that 40% of this is responsible for visual processing. Another interesting statistic is that for migraine, say for instance, for the age group of 35 to 45 is actually the greatest prevalence. And so this sort of makes me feel that there's potentially a relationship between that age group when you're starting to having some problems with your focusing system, and that would sort of tie in with this problems with visual efficiency. Now the other thing is worth a mention that we always give a disclaimer when we talk about headaches, or when we prescribe glasses, say for instance, for headaches. And that is that if your headaches continue despite wearing glasses, then it's really important you come back for further investigations. Now, if you're enjoying some of this content and you know somebody else that might be, please feel free to tag them in. So, if your family and friends would potentially benefit from seeing this too, just tag them in as well. So now I want to give you a bit of an example of a child that I saw only yesterday actually, who had just returned for a performance evaluation after being prescribed some glasses. So basically, about 2 months ago, I prescribed her some glasses, and because she was having some problems with headaches, and she came back, and within that period of time, she's no longer having the same sort of problems. So another example that I gave was another child that came back in, and she wasn't wearing her glasses enough, and the actual recommendation was to increase the use of the glasses, and by doing that we actually improved the fact that she no longer had any problems with headaches. So now let's talk about migraines. So I regard migraine as a response to stress. The whole idea is that the sensory nerves are stimulated by some sort of trigger, and this will cause some stimulation of the surrounding blood vessels. So this is my attempt of what it's like to have a migraine. I'm just going to try and do a little bit of a Facebook Live. So basically what happens is you get this sort of visual aura that occurs, probably not exactly like this. The other thing that's characteristic of a migraine would be a gradual development of this type of aura. You often get some distortion within your central vision, and then you can have some scintillating scotoma, or some lights flashing in the side as well. So there you go. So migraines are pretty common. We're talking about 20% of females and 10% of males. And 1/3 to 1/2 of these are going to have migraine with visual aura, because sometimes you can get it without those sort of patterns as well. We use this we use the International Headache Society guideline when it comes to working out whether a person has a migraine. And say, for instance, if they had a migraine with aura, because that's a particular subtype, you'd have to have at least 2 of these before you actually make that diagnosis. It's interesting, migraine with aura is in fact a risk factor for cardiovascular disease, which means that you're more likely to have a stroke if you are found to have that particular type of migraine. Now, it's not as much of a risk factor as, say, for instance, smoking, hypertension or diabetes, but it's actually more of a risk factor than being obese or having high cholesterol. So it's quite significant. So for the next slide, which I'm planning for next week, I'd like to sort of delve into some of the investigations that I might recommend if you're found to have with some headaches, and the sort of things that I might prescribe. So for example, we have a tint that we can prescribe to glasses called FL41. So this is a special tint which is applied to glasses, and it changes the colour. So we're going to talk a bit more about that next week. Look, I'd like to thank everybody for watching, and if there's any questions or comments about this content, please just put it down the bottom. Okay, thank you.